Can you go back to your parents' home? My parents are going to live in this house. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I truly didn't understand what my husband meant. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. If my husband was plotting something, I had my ways too. What do you think you're doing? Huh? It's none of your business how I dispose of my own belongings, right? I am Liana, a 32-year-old office worker. I married Danny, my husband, quite recently. We met at a group dating event. He approached me aggressively, and I gradually became attracted to him, which led to us dating. Our relationship went smoothly for about 2 years, and then he proposed to me. As I was in my early 30s and hoping to marry, I was very happy when he proposed. I immediately said yes, and we decided to get married. Then we quickly planned to greet each other's parents. When I introduced him to my parents, they were relieved to see he was a decent office worker. Please take good care of our daughter. Yes, I will definitely make her happy. I was happy when he said that confidently. He was fun and considerate, so I thought our married life would be enjoyable. After that, we went to greet his parents. I don't want to remember much about that day. Right from the introduction, his parents didn't seem impressed. Nice to meet you. I'm Liana. Danny, welcome back. It must have been tough walking in the heat, right? I have some cold drinks prepared. Sit down and drink. Oh, I didn't realize you brought a friend, haha. Mom, I brought Liana, my fiancé, today. Oh, sorry, haha. You're so lucky to marry Danny. His mother suddenly said that. Ignoring my greeting at our first meeting, I wondered if she was making fun of me. Then we were led to the living room, and I greeted his father, but he didn't respond at all, just talking to Danny. Without mentioning our marriage, they talked about family matters only they understood for over an hour, leaving me out of the conversation. So, I ended up leaving without having much conversation with his parents. Since his parents were so cold, I asked Danny if he had told them about our intention to get married. I did, he said, but their attitude was too unfriendly. I felt really uncomfortable. That's why I didn't want a meeting between both of our families. Feeling very anxious, I eventually arranged one. I had already warned my parents about his parents. Thanks to that, my parents managed the conversation well. His parents were still unfriendly, but my parents asked questions that drew them out, praising their answers, which seemed to put them in a better mood, and they became more talkative. As a result, the first meeting over a meal ended pleasantly, and I felt relieved. I was truly grateful to my parents for trying so hard for their daughter. Later on, we had our wedding without any issues and finished our honeymoon, starting our life together. We submitted our marriage registration, and we officially became husband and wife. Then, our married life began. Even the trivial things in married life felt enjoyable. Since we hadn't lived together before marriage, everything was fresh. I felt enveloped in happiness every day. I'm home. Welcome back. I made dinner. Oh, what's on the menu today? It's your favorite, Danny. It's steak. Steak. Awesome. I'll get changed and come right away. We enjoyed our married life every day. Although both of us were working, Danny sometimes cooks simple meals, which I appreciated. I had often heard that wives usually bear the brunt of household chores after marriage, but thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. I felt really glad to have married him. That was how we were living a happy married life. However, about a year after marriage, Danny's attitude changed drastically and became cold. At first, I didn't notice, but our conversations began to dwindle. Today, something happened at work. Are you listening to me? I guess so. What kind of response is that? Indeed, Danny completely ignored my stories, and our conversations gradually faded. During meals, he hardly spoke, and the silence grew. Then, perhaps frustrated with this situation, Danny started working overtime more often and returned home considerably late. He also began to go out for drinks more often, coming home drunk. I couldn't understand why our relationship had suddenly deteriorated. Had I done something to upset Danny? Or had his feelings for me cooled off just after a year? Thus, my days were filled with anxiety and confusion. Danny was coming home late, and we hardly had any proper conversations. I wondered if our relationship would continue to deteriorate and lead to divorce. Amidst these thoughts, one day, he suddenly said to me, "Hey, how about we go out to eat somewhere today?" Eh? What happened all of a sudden? No, I was just thinking we haven't really had a good talk recently. Work has been busy, and I've been feeling down. Sorry for being cold. Danny apologized like that. It's okay. Well, I was quite worried, but I forgive you since you apologized. Thank you. I'll be more careful from now on. I was happy that Danny apologized. If things had remained in a bad state, we might have ended up divorcing. That day, we went to a restaurant and enjoyed delicious food and drinks. We had a great time talking about various things, just like before we were married. I thought we might be able to enjoy a happy married life like before. After that, Danny started valuing our time together, and it felt like we went back to our old days. He came home early, and our conversations during meals were enjoyable. So, I was completely reassured. In the midst of those days, Danny made a suggestion. There's a new apartment building coming up that seems convenient for commuting and has a lovely interior. How about moving there? He said that and showed me the brochure for the property. Indeed, it was a very nice place, as Danny described. At that time, we lived in the apartment I used to live in alone. The commute from the apartment was all right, and it was spacious enough for two. Our home appliances were relatively new, so we decided to start our married life in this apartment. However, now that it's been about a year and a half since we got married, it might be time to consider moving, especially if we plan to have a family in the future. The rent for the apartment Danny suggested is $1,400 per month. It's quite expensive, but if we each contribute $700 and save on groceries, we should be able to afford it. I agreed with Danny's proposal and hurried the contract procedures. A few months later, we moved into the completed apartment. It was spacious with many rooms, beautiful, and seemed very comfortable to live in. Danny really liked it and seemed satisfied. It was an extremely comfortable and pleasant place. Equipped with a complete kitchen, I could enjoy cooking every day. Danny and I were spending joyful time together in our new home. However, about a month later, something bothered me. "Hey Danny, about this month's rent, your part hasn't been deposited into our joint account, right?" Really? Oh, I thought I had transferred it. There's a deadline for payment, so please transfer it soon. Sorry, I thought I had already transferred it and ended up spending on other things. Can you cover this month for me? I'll pay it back soon, sorry. Please make it quick. I paid the full rent from my salary then. It was the first time I saw Danny not keeping such a promise, so I thought he would pay me back soon. However, after 2, then 3 weeks passed. Danny still hadn't paid me back, and it was already time for the next rent payment. "Hey, you haven't paid me back for last month's rent yet. Do I have to pay the full $1,400 this month?" That's unreasonable, but we agreed to split the rent each month. Well, we made a promise, but it's not easy, right? No, it's a promise, so don't make excuses and just keep it. I'm working hard every day, so don't be so harsh. Working hard? If he was working hard, he should cooperate in paying the rent for us as a couple. Then, can you set aside the rent from your salary in advance? All right. I wonder if he really understood. My trust in Danny dropped significantly. Besides, I was paying for all living expenses, including food and utilities. I was saving as much as possible. So even with rent, the total came to about $2,000. But it's hard to pay all that with just my salary. However, Danny never paid the rent again. It turned out he only paid for the first month after we moved. One day, something unforgivable happened. It was on my holiday when Danny was out for work, and I was cleaning the house. As I was vacuuming around the house, I found something in Danny's room. Did he have luxury brand clothes? Danny had bought luxury brand clothes without my knowledge, clothes he had never worn in front of me. So, I didn't even know he had bought them. But what upset me the most was that he bought such expensive items while not paying the rent or living expenses. As soon as Danny came home, I confronted him. Hey, what is this? It's my clothes. What's the problem? Why are you buying luxury brand clothes? Why not? I can buy whatever I want with my salary. Yes, you can. But you said we would share expenses like rent and groceries, and you haven't paid. When will you pay? I'll pay when I can. Isn't your priority wrong? If you can afford luxury clothes, then pay the rent. Danny retorted to my words. What's the problem? It's fine, isn't it? To me, these clothes are more important. Your salary is also part of our income, so you paying the entire rent is the same as us paying it together. I was amazed at how self-centered his statement was. It's not the same. I'm making an effort to save while you just buy whatever you want. Don't you care about our home? Danny and I had a big fight for the first time in a while. He stormed out of the house in rage. Maybe we both needed some time to cool down. After Danny left, I searched his room again. I found a receipt for a luxury brand bag for women in his desk drawer. The date was over a month ago. I had no memory of being given such a bag, and my birthday had passed 2 months before. At that time, we only enjoyed a meal at a slightly upscale restaurant. Moreover, I paid for it. I haven't received anything from Danny. I finally understood. Danny was probably giving gifts to another woman. That's why he didn't pay the rent and didn't contribute to living expenses. So, I hired a detective agency. About 3 days later, Danny returned home as if nothing had happened. However, I couldn't greet him as I used to. I didn't say welcome back or talk to him. Danny, sensing my anger, didn't try to start a conversation either. In my mind, I was thinking of ending our marriage depending on the results from the detective agency. About 2 weeks later, I received the results from the agency. As expected, Danny was having an affair. Moreover, the other woman was his former girlfriend. Before marriage, he mentioned having a long-term relationship with a woman, and it seemed she was the one he was having an affair with. The affair matched the period last year when Danny became cold toward me. He had been cheating since then. I was filled with rage. The sudden kindness from Danny, who had been cold, was probably to make me bear all household expenses, allowing him to freely spend his salary, pretending our marriage was good. I was skillfully used by him. This was something I couldn't forgive. I decided to take revenge on him. In the midst of this, Danny came home from work and made an unbelievable proposal. My parents are going to live in this house, so can you go back to your parents' home? What are you talking about? I don't understand. After our fight, I went back to my parents' house, and they told me to break up with such a woman. They said they were moving to this apartment and suggested we live together. So, I've decided to live here with my parents and you need to move out. I couldn't believe what Danny was saying. Even though I contribute $2,000 for monthly living expenses, what will he do without me? However, this turned out to be a good thing for me. Understood? Perhaps our relationship can't be repaired. If that's the case, I'll leave. When I said that, Danny laughed happily and said, I'll come back after you leave, and left. The next day, I quickly contacted a recycling company. Since he was plotting something, I had my ways too. A few days later, I had the recycling company assess all the furniture and appliances and sold everything. It turned out to be an unexpected windfall of hundreds of dollars. Then, I packed my belongings and went back to my parents' house. Danny had prepared a divorce form, so I signed it and submitted it to the city office promptly. This meant Danny and I would then lead completely separate lives. When I told Danny the moving out was done, he said cheerfully, "Oh, that was fast. Let's both be happy," and hung up. However, a few days later, Danny called me again. "Hey, what do you mean by this? We're already divorced. Do you need something? Where did all the furniture and appliances go? You can't just take them." It's my right to do whatever I want with my belongings, isn't it? All the furniture and appliances in the house are what I've been using since my single days. I've already had them taken away by the recycling company. So, I have to buy new ones then. Eh? Do you have that kind of money? You're kidding me. I work too, you know? Well, but that apartment costs $1,400 per month in rent, right? Plus, living expenses for 3 adults will be around $2,200 to $2,300 a month. It costs that much. Yes, I've been paying about that much all along. That I can afford that with my salary. Maybe. Well, no more money for your girlfriend then. What? I know everything about your affair with your ex-girlfriend. I'll be claiming compensation for that, so be prepared. I'll contact you through a lawyer. Bye. Wait a minute. I hung up without listening to him. Afterward, through a lawyer, I proceeded with the process of claiming compensation from Danny and his affair partner. Danny was ordered to pay a compensation of $30,000, but ended up in debt as he had no savings. As expected, he soon found it difficult to pay the living expenses and rent, and it seemed he had to leave the apartment. His parents' house had already been sold, so they had no place to return to and are now living in a small, cheap apartment as a family of 3. When I was contributing financially, there was a sense of economic ease. But after the divorce, Danny was left with nothing, and his relationship with his affair partner couldn't be maintained. As a result, it seems our relationship naturally came to an end. Danny begged me for reconciliation, crying, but I ignored everything and even blocked his calls. The compensation is to be paid in installments, and if the payments are delayed, his salary might be garnished, so it's unlikely he will miss any payments. Meanwhile, I plan to commute from my parents' house and start saving the money I couldn't save before. The marriage was a failure, but I take it as a lesson and intend to use this experience in my future life. Hey, where are you now? I'm at the office, working. His response was surprisingly calm, which caught me off guard. He's right next to me now. I can't believe he fooled me so easily. If he's going to play it that way, I'll have to come up with a plan. I'll use whatever means necessary to make him realize. My name is Jane. I'm 33 years old this year. I graduated from college and joined a major foreign company I had dreamed of for a long time. I had no complaints about my income, but my days were busy, and I often had to travel abroad. I feared that if this lifestyle continued, every day would be consumed by work. When I turned 29, I began to feel a sense of urgency and anxiety about the future, wanting a break from my daily routine. At that time, a friend suddenly invited me to a group date, and I thought it would be a perfect distraction. There, I met Kyle, who would later become my husband. He was the same age as me, 29, and at first glance seemed like an ordinary office worker living his daily life. While I had business trips and relocations, Kyle had no such duties, and his salary was indeed lower than mine. One day, as our relationship approached its first year and we began to seriously consider marriage, Kyle said to me with a slightly gloomy face, "Honestly, I'm worried if I can make you happy as things stand." "Why do you think that?" "When it comes to salary, I earn less than you, and I'm unsure if I can adequately support our family as a man." I took his hand and said, "I'm with you not because of your salary or status, but because I genuinely love you. That's all there is to it." A look of relief appeared on his anxious face. At that moment, I felt even more affection for him. I expressed the emotions swelling up inside me. "I need you, Kyle. It's you that I want, not anyone else." He looked surprised for a moment, then gently said, "Jane, thank you for saying that. I truly want to spend my life with you." A month later, he proposed to me. As autumn deepened, we got married in a chapel, surrounded by blessings from everyone. My life continued to be busy with work as before, but having him in my life made everything felt worth it. Fast forward 2 years from that special day. We spent our time peacefully and happily. Time flew, and thoughts about having children began to cross our minds. One evening after work, I returned home to find that Kyle, who usually waited for me, wasn't there. That's odd. Where's Kyle? I checked the living room, bedroom, and other rooms, but he was nowhere to be found. Returning to the entrance, I noticed his shoes were missing. I quickly checked my phone, but there were no messenger notifications or any particular calls. This was strange. Kyle usually got home before me. He would always let me know if something came up. I wondered, did something serious happen to him? Suppressing my anxiety, I picked up my phone to call him. After a few anxious seconds, I heard his nonchalant voice. Hey, what's up? Kyle, where are you? Are you okay? Huh? Oh, I'm fine. Did something happen? I came home and you weren't here. There were no messages, so I was worried something had happened. Oh, about that. Sorry, I'm actually working overtime today. Really? But you've hardly ever done that before, right? Feeling something was off, I pressed for more details. He hesitated briefly, then began to speak more quickly than usual. Well, I've been given a huge responsibility at work. If I do well, there might be talk of a promotion. So I'm working hard. Really? That's great news, Kyle. Thanks. But because of this, I might have to work overtime more frequently for a while. Sorry about that. I'm still working, so I'll talk to you later. Wait, you're hanging up already? He abruptly ended the call. I was initially irritated, but the news of a potential promotion truly made me happy. I hoped that this promotion might resolve the income concerns Kyle had been having at the back of his mind. While I wasn't particularly concerned about Kyle's income, I knew he was driven to succeed on his own terms. It looked certain that our future together would become even more enjoyable. Considering the prospect of having children, this promotion was indeed a blessing. From the day we had that conversation over the phone, it became truly rare for him to come home on time. On holidays, he would say, I need to go to work for a bit, and leave the house. The time we would spend together as a couple started to diminish day by day. When I came home from work, I hoped to see him relaxing in the living room, but the house was silent and he was nowhere to be found. Even on holidays, Kyle seemed busy, and we couldn't find time to relax together. I understood he was working hard and he mentioned there's a chance for a promotion, so I supported him. But to be honest, there were times I wanted to tell him, shouldn't we take some time for ourselves once in a while? But I couldn't, as I didn't want to pressure him. I immersed myself in my work to distract myself from the loneliness. I also had an opportunity to go on an overseas business trip at just the right time, so I dived into it wholeheartedly. However, our lives began to drift apart, and I started to feel, deep down, I wish we had more time together. Despite understanding the pressure he was under, I decided to share my feelings. Kyle, can you listen for a moment? When he came home, I approached him with a bit of nervousness. Now, I'm kind of tired. Oh, I see. His response wasn't what I expected, and I was unsure of how to react. But feeling that I needed to speak up, I tried again. Sorry, Kyle. I understand you're probably tired, but there's something I wanted to talk about today. All right. But can you be quick? I have to get up early tomorrow. But tomorrow is Saturday, right? Why do you have to be up early? Do you really need to talk about this now? The tone of his voice rose, and I was taken aback, just because I could see his face turning red with anger. It was the first time I saw him like this, and I was scared. Forget it. I'm going to bed, he said and went straight to the bedroom. I stood there, not knowing what to do. Kyle's reaction was truly shocking. He had never been so cold to me before. I always believed that even in busy times, we could communicate properly as a couple. I never imagined being yelled at for something so minor. Usually, we would discuss things calmly and solve them. But this time, he was different. To be honest, I was scared to confront him with my emotions. Soon after, I had an overseas business trip, and my fatigue from work was at its peak. On top of that, my train home was delayed. I was thinking about the bad timing, but I wanted to get home quickly. Maybe Kyle is already back home, I thought, so I hailed a taxi. Excuse me, please take me to this address. While in the taxi, I was too tired to check my phone. I was staring out of the window when, "Wait, stop here," I exclaimed. I squinted and looked again. There was no mistake. Walking there were Kyle and a woman I didn't recognize. That's Kyle, right? He said he was busy with work, right? So why is he here and with that woman? Questions swirled in my mind. Everything about our daily life, our married life, and his actions felt suspicious all of a sudden. It wasn't just a case of mistaken identity or someone looking similar. The way he walked, his posture, and that distinctive jacket, it was unmistakably Kyle. What shocked me more was when they suddenly started kissing as if they weren't concerned about anyone watching. In my shock, I managed to take out my phone and record the scene, thinking it might serve as evidence. They continued walking, hands clasped, looking cheerful. I just stared blankly at their retreating figures. As I recorded, the taxi driver asked, "Are you okay?" Hearing his voice, I snapped back to reality and quickly stopped the recording. When I got home, as expected, there were no signs of Kyle. Amidst the turmoil of emotions, I decided to call him. After several rings, I finally heard his voice. "What is it? You're calling so much. I'm at work right now. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify something. I'm a bit busy right now." "What? Busy? Do you mean you're busy with another woman?" I mustered the courage to confront him. "What are you talking about?" He responded in a surprised yet stern tone. After a moment of silence, he spoke in an annoyed voice. "I can't believe you're doubting me. I'm staying at the office tonight." And with that, he suddenly hung up the phone. Kyle's behavior couldn't be described as anything but suspicious. Could he really be cheating? The mere thought felt surreal. Considering our future as a couple, it had become evident that we needed a deep conversation to truly understand each other's feelings. But given his recent behavior, finding the right moment seemed difficult. True to his words, he didn't come back home that night. The next day, he came home but didn't speak much, as if he was a different person. Amidst this, the 2-week overseas business trip I had scheduled arrived. On the morning of departure, while pondering what to say to Kyle, he surprisingly woke up early and started a somewhat awkward conversation. "Jane, it's going to be tough with your trip starting today, but do your best." Thanks, Kyle. Let's both be careful. Thinking about you being gone for 2 weeks makes me lonely. I've gotten used to the occasional trips, but they still make me sentimental. You really think that way? I'm a bit surprised. Of course, I've felt a strange tension between us lately. When you come back, let's go on a fun date and change our mood. Did he truly feel this way? Or were these words a mask to hide a secret I didn't know? He might be trying to divert my suspicions. Even though my head understood this possibility, a part of my heart was relieved by his words. Our relationship had cooled off recently, and my passion for him seemed to have diminished. Yet deep down, maybe I wasn't ready to let him go. Was that scene I witnessed just a figment of my imagination? Seeing his smile again made all the doubts vanish, and I realized how much I still loved him. Let's try to truly understand each other when I get back. With a cheerful response, I proceeded with my departure preparations. Surprisingly, the business trip went smoothly and ended earlier than planned. Initially, I thought of informing him about my early return. However, an idea struck me: a surprise return could be fun. I imagined greeting a tired Kyle with a homemade dinner. I was looking forward to the small pleasure of welcoming him back, tired from his day, with the dinner I had prepared. Upon landing in the US, it felt like I had been away for longer than just a week. Standing in front of my house, I whispered to myself, "I'm finally back." But as I opened the door, something felt out of place. There, right in front of me, were unfamiliar pink high heels. Frozen in surprise, I heard Kyle's voice, along with a woman's giggly voice from the living room. "What?" Holding back my anxiety, I tiptoed down the corridor. Peeking into the living room, I saw that same woman I had seen before, laughing and sharing wine with Kyle. The woman, speaking in a playful tone, said, "Is it okay to stay here? What if someone finds out about us? It's fine. She won't be back for another 2 days. Haha. Really? Spending my birthday alone with you like this? I'm so lucky. I know, right? Haha. So, will you stay with me tonight? Oh, Kyle. Thank you for this present, too." The woman's name appeared to be Lisa. They seemed intoxicated, holding hands and laughing joyfully. My heart felt like it was tearing apart. How could this happen so easily in this house which I had worked so hard to obtain? Tears welled up, but I thought I shouldn't cry here and took a picture of the scene with my smartphone. While they seemed entirely relaxed, I quietly left the house and boarded the elevator. Inside the elevator, my heart raced. Torn between wanting to trust Kyle and the reality I had just witnessed, the memories of our good times together raced through my mind. I didn't want to believe it, but the reality before me couldn't be denied. Even in this situation, could I still maintain my relationship with him? Suppressing the tightening feeling in my chest, I decided to call him. When he answered the phone with a hello, I paused for a moment before speaking. "Hey, where are you right now?" He responded casually, "I told you, I'm at work. Is something wrong?" "Well, there's something that's bothering me. Is someone at our place right now?" He sounded puzzled as he murmured, "Huh?" I continued, slightly exasperated but wanting to address the situation. "I came back home early. As I approached the house, I heard voices inside. Wait, seriously? You mean you're standing outside our door right now?" "Yes, so I was thinking if I should go in and check." As I tried to gauge his response, what he said next was completely unexpected, and I was shocked. "What? Could it be a burglar?" "That's it, a burglar. Jane, stay away for now. It's dangerous." I was utterly disappointed at that moment. I couldn't believe he would try to deceive me with such a flimsy excuse like this. "First, go somewhere safe." Then the call abruptly ended. I impulsively called the police. "Excuse me, I believe there might be a burglar in my home. I can hear voices. Could you come quickly?" Shortly after, 2 police officers arrived at my home. I explained the situation and we entered the house together. When the house intercom rang and he appeared, he looked shocked. "Why are the police here? Was there some trouble? Are you a resident here?" "Yes, I am, but we received a report from the lady here saying someone had broken into the house." "What? A burglar? But there's nobody here." At that moment, I revealed myself from a corner, staring at his astonished face. "Why?" He looked completely bewildered. I apologized to the officers, saying, "Sorry, it was a misunderstanding," and sent them on their way. There was no sign of a woman inside the apartment. She probably slipped out while I was making the call. He looked slightly uneasy, seemingly trying to hide his infidelity. Kyle raised his voice. "Why did you suddenly call the police? Isn't that an overreaction?" "Well, you're the one who mentioned it might be a burglar, right? And where were you, really?" He looked troubled, clearly unsure of what to say. "Well, actually, I took out my smartphone and played the video I had recorded earlier. Do you see this?" His face went completely pale, and he seemed at a loss for words. "What is this? Can you explain?" I said with a slight smile. He seemed to be searching for words. "This eyes, I don't need excuses. Just tell me the truth." Although there was remorse in his eyes, he still couldn't muster the words to apologize to me. At this point, it doesn't matter. Even in a situation like this, you can't even apologize properly. How does it feel to be caught cheating? I'm sorry, Jane. What's the use of apologizing now? You know, just saying sorry won't fix everything, right? A mere apology won't heal this pain. Don't worry, I'll be sure to get compensation from you. Both you and that woman better take responsibility. With those words, my anger didn't subside and I threw him out of the house. After returning inside, I made sure to lock the door tightly. For a while, I could hear his voice and footsteps outside, but they eventually faded. Later on, I received a concerned call from his parents. Our son came home very distressed. What happened? When I calmly explained the situation, they were shocked and promised to cooperate regarding the compensation and divorce matters. They even prepared the divorce papers for me. The divorce went smoothly, and when I informed my in-laws, they told me they had decided to disown their son. I decided to claim damages from him and his affair partner and contacted my trusted lawyer. I learned that the woman he cheated with worked at the front desk of his company. And soon enough, the gossip spread throughout the office. Unable to handle the pressure, she ended up quitting her job. I heard that Kyle was still working there, facing cold stares and whispers almost daily. Surprisingly, I learned that the promotion he had been talking about all along was a lie. Thinking back, I might have been a bit too oblivious back then. But now, I feel like I'm on a new path. I plan to focus on my work and aim for a better future. There were many happy times in my marriage, but marriage isn't the only thing in life. I look forward to enjoying my future days, discussing